Good morning. I'm meteorologist Shane Hinton with your July 2nd morning tropical update. We're kicking things off with the historic Hurricane Beryl, a Category 5 hurricane with maximum sustained winds currently at 165 miles per hour. I call this a historic hurricane because it is the earliest Category 5 hurricane in the history of the Atlantic Basin that's on record. Okay, so the earliest in the Atlantic hurricane season. This also now ranks as the strongest hurricane on record in July for the Atlantic Basin. Just take a look at some of the numbers here. The previous record holder was Emily back from July 2005 with 160 mile per hour sustained winds. Beryl just above that with 5 mile per hour sustained winds higher than that. We had an unnamed system back in July of 1926 that had 150 mile per hour winds, and then Hurricane Dennis back in 2005 in July. As we take a look at the sea surface temperatures, this is one of the contributing factors as to why this system was able to rapidly intensify. Normally you need ocean surface temperatures above 79 degrees for tropical development. We're trending well above that. 85 degrees in the Caribbean, 85, 84 degrees in the Gulf of Mexico. This is basically acting like jet fuel for these kinds of tropical systems. So let's take a look at the latest forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. It's expected to continue moving to the west-northwest through the Caribbean, possibly making landfall in Jamaica as a major Category 3 hurricane around midday on Wednesday. Continues to push toward the Yucatan Peninsula by Friday midnight, possibly making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane there, and then moving into the Bay of Campeche before eventually the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. Now, this forecast cone ends at midnight on Sunday, and as you can see, it gets wider as you get towards the end. The reason for that is there's still a lot of uncertainty in regards to what happens 7 days out with the forecast models. So let's take a look at the spaghetti models. We've been keeping track throughout all of our shows. Something now we're noticing is on Daybreak earlier this morning, a lot of the models had shifted to the north and northwest. Now these most recent models are pivoting it a little bit further down toward the south, closer to Mexico. So there's still plenty of time for this to change. It's wobbling back and forth. That's why it's going to be so crucial to make sure you're staying in tune with the most up-to-date forecast from the KVUE Weather Center. Now, I mentioned Hurricane Emily a little bit earlier in regard to kind of its history and comparison between that and Hurricane Beryl. Take a look at Hurricane Emily's historical track. You can see it also pushed through the Caribbean and then through the Yucatan Peninsula, through the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and eventually made landfall in northeastern Mexico. So right now the spaghetti model is kind of following along with that trajectory. I think the biggest contributing factor is going to be that ridge of high pressure that's going to help steer it that's currently sitting over us. Now, as we compare the forecast models of the GFS and the European rainfall forecast models, you can still see that there are some widespread rain chances here, anywhere from a few tenths of an inch to maybe some isolated locations over